Hello everyone, this is Pavel and the third episode of the podcast I Love Anime, and it dedicated to the Attack on Titan. And this is the first episode on this topic, to be more precise. Initially, I planned to record one episode completely dedicated to my impressions and love for this work with the One Piece release vibe. And also reflect on the story as a whole and speak about the final, which is gradually approaching while I'm writing the script. Of course, we are talking about anime, and the manga final was released in 2021. And I was one of those who couldn't resist, and after watching the first half of the fourth season, rushed to read the manga, and I read it from the very first chapter. But knowing the plot didn't spoil my joy from watching anime, but first thing first. In this episode, I want to tell you about my emotions from the first season, because during the latest recap of the series, I made so many notes about what I want to say, which made me to realize at once that one episode wouldn't be enough. And I will say right away that at first I will try not to touch the plot spoilers, but later I will completely plunge into them. So, if you haven't watched the anime up to this point, then I advise you to limit yourself to the introductory part of the episode. Maybe you will become interested and watch it yourself, or maybe on the contrary, you'll make sure once again that these things is not your cup of tea. And of course, I want to read your thoughts and impression about this work in the comment section. Well, let's get started. Enjoy listening. 10 years ago, in 2013 our time, thunder rumbled in the fictional city of Shiganshina, and a colossal titan raised his head from behind a huge wall to the accompaniment of epic music. So the titan swooped into our lives, including my life, and I was really impressed. I even dug up the reaction to the first episode on my computer, and my facial expression at the end of the episode was crestfallen at most, because the beginning of the series was brilliant, an atmospheric introduction, the first taste of heroes and the world, a call to be opening, monstrous titan in the city, and a sense of local apocalypse. So for me, this episode was probably one of the best I ever seen, both among anime and regular series as well. And with such a beginning, it's not wonder that so many people around the world were hooked on something that the author of the work, Hajime Isayama, prepared for the viewers and readers. By the way, about them, more than 100 million copies of manga have been sold in the world. And anime has become one of the most popular, even among viewers who usually don't watch Japanese animation. I make this conclusion at least by the numbers of rating on the IMDb site, which usually evaluates movies and TV series. And the Titans have more than 440,000 rating there. I've seen the bigger number only for Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away, which is 2 times ahead of the Attack. Anyway, this anime has opened up the world of Japanese animation to many and busted plenty of myths and reservation about it. It's true, the Attack on Titan is quite unique, and it's not that easy to find something like this in the anime format. If to return to my impressions, I saw an original new world back then, and on the one hand it looked like the alternative Middle Ages with people living behind exaggeratedly huge walls, something like European cities and castles, which as far as I understand inspired Isayama-san. But on the other hand, there were strange and repulsive creatures in the form of titans, just ridiculous as much as unpleasant and even frightening. Because they combined the ordinary people appearance, though distorted at the same time, which created the notorious effect of uncanny valley. In addition, the fact that they were eating people caused fear, because cannibalism for modern human is the strictest taboo, and only primitive tribes or maniacs from the true crime stories do this. By the way, in the process of the third or fourth rewatching of anime before the final, I continued noticing some detail for myself. I didn't venture to watch the numerous videos which could have easily shown me all possible references and Chekhov's guns, but I decided to take a deeper look into it again on my own, and only after the final plunge into the abyss of missing details. So, in the scenes where Hanji gave names to the Titans, Sonny and Bin, it was mentioned that once there lived such a group of people who were catching travelers and eating their meat. And I thought that I have already heard a similar story somewhere, but I made a little account of it. And recently I remember a podcast with scary stories that I once listened to. And in one of the episodes there was a story about the semi-legendary Sonny Bin clan from Scotland. that according to the story was engaged in this. To cap it all, the names of two previously caught titans, as it turned out, referred to the Soviet maniac Chikatilo and Albert Fish, who also tasted human meat this or that way. In addition, the scenes with experiments on Titan witnessed to the harsh reality, where various rather than human experiments were often carried out on prisoners of war. And since the whole storyline of the attack is connected with the military theme, the Titans and their repulsive appearance made me think about dehumanization of the enemy, as there is practically no room for humanism on the battlefields, and the enemy is often presented in various ways so that no compassion or pity could be applied for him. This thought somehow made me sad, especially having known the truth about the Titans, which we learn later. Moreover, this is true for more mundane things as well, like holy wars in the notorious comment section on the internet. If one person believes that the truth is on his side, then the other party to the dispute will automatically look bad. And in this situation, it will be easier to insult and humiliate the interlocutor. Generally, it is amazing how Isayama-san shows fighting in the anime. It can be overviewed from different perspectives. He shows how horribly things can be there, and how people can break down in blink of an eye due to traumatic experience, being mentally and physically prepared for this for a long time. Everyone around will die in horrible agony, and even the main character seems to be unprotected from death. And this can seem as attempt to play on the field of Game of Thrones, where there was deliberately cruelty and a lot of deaths. And Isayama-san didn't hush up the fact that he was a fan of top TV shows like Breaking Bad and The Very Thrones. But I believe that he demonstrates cruelty precisely to show up the horror of the battle, and in order to make the viewers hate violence, but not to satisfy the bloodlust of the content consumer. Now I want to talk about our heroes, because as usual they are the source of emotion and we learn about the world through their perception. And I must say at once that I will continue to add more and more plot spoilers, as it's unlikely that I can do without them. Let's start with Eren. Oh, he has managed to evoke so many different emotions in me over the years. At the beginning, he seems to be a typical shonen main character who is burdened with an idea and won't stop on the way to his goals. He is ready to overcome any obstacles and thereby piss everyone off with his idealism and persistence. And to tell the truth, I'm still trying to figure him out as a character. And I have found some information that even Isayama-san said that he didn't like Eren, and he had given him the role of the storyline engine because he was the kind of hero who could move forward no matter what. More human-like heroes could have turned off this path many times, but he doesn't compromise and will break down every wall on his way, and he will stomp on opponents by all means. Haha, well, you know, yep. As if it's not enough that he is an idealist, it also seems that the ideas of anarchism would suit him. There, every person is unconditionally free, and the order is maintained by the incredible level of consciousness of every member of society. Additionally, I think he is almost a psychopath. The scenes where he, as a child, kills several bandits for the sake of saving a stranger girl shows him instability. But I think such a conclusion is too harsh. Rather, his inner compass tells him that if someone takes your freedom away, the consequences of this will be cruel. And in the case of Eren, it's unclear how much the Attack Titan's abilities have changed him. Eren's companion here, there and everywhere is Mikasa, whom he saved by chance and also accidentally awakened her hidden abilities. And due to this, she became grateful to him to such extent that it looked more like an addiction and obsession. Therefore, a dog says woof woof, a kitty goes meow meow, and for Mikasa it's Eren Eren. And I'm not sure that Isayama-san himself understands what is going on between those two. I saw some information that he admits that he doesn't know how to create romantic relationships. But despite this, it has become unique in its own way, although contradictory. For example, now I've got an idea that he just mirrored an old cliché about girl in trouble, putting Eren in her position. So he is constantly being kidnapped and Mikasa is trying to save him, but the notification about Eren being in another castle is always popping up in front of her. It was rather funny when one more belated idea crossed my mind after one scene at the end of the season, where she with wild eyes asked Eren if he had any feelings for Annie. So, isn't our beloved Mikasa a yandere by chance? And of course I found decade-old memes with this frame for such a query in the search engine. Moreover, I was amused that her crazy look and talking Eren into joining the fight seems similar to the famous scene with the same Eren's glare at his father, so he learned the skill of persuasion from his bodyguard. If we leave their relationship behind, then I can't help you but admire Mikasa as a heroine. In many anime, the girlfriend on the main characters can perform supportive function, a love interested, the previous mentioned girl in trouble, and in the worst cases just a piece of beautiful furniture. But Mikasa has fighting skills that surpass almost everyone around her. She is beautiful, but there is almost no focus on this, though it's a regular thing in many other anime. The author simply doesn't need to focus on the fact that she is a girl. He only creates a world where, as I see it, everyone doesn't care about gender, orientation and other features. Your skills are foremost important, and I like this approach much more than the way the scripts for movies and TV shows are written now. So, stern and beautiful Valkyrie Mikasa is forever in our heart. Fortunately, other female characters turn out to be bright and unique in their own way, but there will be another time to talk about them. The last of our triplet of heroes is Armin. At the first, he can bring some repulsive emotion and he is physically weak and has to hide behind the back of Eren, who is going right ahead, and Mikasa, who covers them when they get into a mess. But his intelligence and ability to think ahead admire me no less than the merits of the others. Firstly, he doesn't believe in himself and his ability, but support of others makes him grow above himself. For me, a very powerful moment was when a cannon was pointed at them and Eren was likely to be killed as an incomprehensible threat. It was Armin and his furious speech that tackled the issue. Even our die-hard, instead of acting in a rush, put their fates into Armin's hand without a shadow of doubt, as he trusts him completely. I am also captivated by his self-criticism, since he gradually turned his inner doubts into a more sober perception of reality. And his communication with Annie in the first and the final seasons, where he said that he hates being called a good person, shows that he is aware of price of his action, worth either being proud of or feeling guilty for the rest of his life. That's why I like watching these three so much, because they complement each other. In taking into account all that they have been through, I sincerely want everything to be good for them. Their friendship, care for each other, and trust impress and delight me. I just thought to limit myself to mention only them in this episode, but I can't help saying a few words about Junkenstein, who has always been an alternative to Eren for me. I see a lot of humanity in his contradictory action. Initially, he just wanted to become a policeman and get further inland from the threat of the Titans and live happily ever after. But Marco's word about his abilities and their real application forced him to abandon the original plan. And throughout the timeline, he will show different sides of his personality. Although at the beginning he only irritates me, but after a while my opinion of him improved, because despite of the vibes of selfishness, he is really reliable at any difficult moment. And when asked about his favorite character, Isayama-san named John first, though he later changed the answer to Reiner. I also want to review the world of this work again. Isayama-san didn't create his own small universe where he could play for ages creating different stories, like Tolkien's Middle-earth and Martin's Westeros. He preferred to create a world that fits and it builds around a specific story, but he filled it with a lot of details that made it believable. For instance, here's a vertical maneuvering equipment that turns its user into a Spider-Man look-alike. It's a cool thing as there's no need to elaborate small details. But when you watch the series, there will be pieces of public available information that give you more details about how it works and many other aspects of life inside the walls. For me personally, such attention to detail often marks the distinction between a work worth of admiration and a dud. One more cool thing about the story is plenty of secrets and riddles from the very beginning. Who is the Titans? What is behind the outer walls? How has the world turned into this? In such cases, it's always great to build your own theories and guesses. Fortunately, I gradually began to enjoy the riddles and the things of mystery itself more than the answer to them. But in the case of the Titans, I was satisfied with most of the answers. At the same time, I imagined the picture of the world close to the one from the strange Japanese film adaptation, which I watch only in form of funny review. You know, in a parallel universe, Isayama-san would have been offered to see doctors because of such concept. Just think about how mainstream works in manga and anime look like now. And here a young guy suggests building a story around naked giants who will eat people alive right and left, who will be almost invincible, and the heroes will fly around them on cables and cut them with something looks like a huge paper knives. And if there is an anime adaptation, then it must be the top studio. Insane! But in our world, in which we often scold content makers for their lack of courage and constant repetition of concept at work, there was a place for such a story as the Attack on Titan. Speaking of the top animation studio, how can I not mention and praise the Vid studio which did its best? The flights on the devices look fantastically great, you can feel the dynamics, the camera spots exciting angles and moments. The chaotic movements of the Titans makes your heart sink as the fragile hero seems to strive to get into their grip. And to avoid a terrible and painful death you must have incredible abilities, instincts and luck. The animation conveys this flawlessly, forcing you to open your eyes wide and stop blinking in order not to miss another gorgeous frame. Therefore, when I was talking about the love for anime in general, I highlighted the production of Attack on Titan. My deepest gratitude to the studio employees and people who ventured to invest money into this pretty cruel and bloody work. In such cases, people are not always ready to take risks, because when the younger audience is excluded, then less funds can be attracted. It's good that this is not our case. Though, the transition of the project to another studio at the peak of popularity gives the ground for questions. Since I share my delight from the visual component of the anime, how can I not express my deepest respect to the composer Hiroyuki Sawano? His music is something as powerful as the Titans themselves. The usual epic orchestral moments are combined with unusual electronic breaks and even a rock drive. The vocals bring goosebumps the size of Colossal, and the drum stomps into the listeners like an armored one. Whereas the lyrical composition penetrates to the depths of the soul. Recently I've been lucky enough to attend a live performance of music from the Attack. And even though the performance was not perfect, I was covered in goosebumps and deafened by applause after the most iconic compositions. Take at least the very first opening, which has become a meme and now it etched upon the memory forever. I also damn love the track from the second ending, and this time rewatching I have finally seen how it hints at the events from the second season. Cool, just awesome. But don't think that I consider this work to be perfect. Isayama-san is still an ordinary person, not a machine. Therefore, everyone will have their own complaints about his work, the world, or answers to questions. It's just that I personally don't want to focus on it because of the great love. But in the upcoming episodes, I think I will still try to balance my irrepressible delight and the desire only to praise the Titans. I will stop here, and I will summarize the passing result. I adore the first season of this anime, and every time I rewatch it, I get a charge of incredible emotions. I laugh, swallow tears, admire, get horrified, and find new details and ideas for myself. That's why I want to thank Hajime Isayama for this piece, Vid Studio for their incredible work, composer Hiroyuki Sawano for his insanely cool music, and those people who once offered me to watch Attack on Titan. It was an amazing experience that I won't forget, and thank you for listening to the episodes up to the end. Have a good day and meet me later in the second part of the podcast series about the Attack on Titan. Bye bye. Yeah,